Hello and welcome to Control-Delete Tutorials. My name is Jason, and I want to first talk about a previous video that I released about the create task, the AP Computer Science Principles create task. And in the previous video, I guess some people had mentioned that it was kind of more difficult than they might, or hard to follow, because we covered a bunch of different data types and how to sort through different data types. The idea being that if you wanted to sort by a string, you could do it this way, one way. Or if you were sorting by integers, you could do it another way. If you're doing it by floats, you could do it another way. So I was showing multiple different examples, and I think that confused some people, thinking they would have to do all of those for the create task, and that's not necessarily what I meant about that video. So I decided to create a new video. So I'll keep the old one up in case you want to see it and see a bunch of different things. This one's going to be a little bit more concise. The other one, I believe we're using a sorting algorithm. We're using a bubble sort. In this example, we're not actually going to be sorting as much as we're going to create new lists from other lists. So that's where we're going to get started. So I just wanted you guys to see this is available. There's one for help on the written response portion, how to read CSV files and how to write CSV files. So all of those are worth it checking out if you're doing the AP Computer Science Principles create task. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. So there's a couple things that we need to be able to do for the create task, and you can see those in the other videos in a bit more depth. But you have to basically be able to write a program that can take information from a list and run it through a procedure, and you could sort it into other lists, or you could take the information and sort it by a certain attribute or something like that, using different variable data types. But the one we're going to do today should be a little easier. Should be about 100 lines of code in total when we're done. I'm going to have to space things out in more of a list format just to make them easier to see on screen. But it still puts us at about 100 lines of code. And we're going to start off reading in a CSV file. So I created a CSV file, or in the last video I created a CSV file, or in a previous one. In this one, I found one that I thought was interesting that I wanted to use. Now in this one is taking Super Smash Brothers tournament data. So here we have the tournament, the location, the date, the entrance, people that entered, participants, what have you, prize, first place, second place, third place, and fourth place. And I just let's get rid of that extra one. I just wanted to kind of focus on North America events. So most of these are going to be North America only. So if you don't see yours on there, sorry. And I just took a very small sample from a data set. So there's only like 33 different ones here. Okay, so let's see how we can use this. So the first thing we're going to do is import our CSV module. Okay, we always have to do that. I'm not going to be spacing things out a lot like I normally would, just because I'm trying to save on our length here. Okay, then I'm going to create a list. You can call your list whatever you want for your example. So if you're reading NFL data, maybe yours is called whatever, NFL data. I'm going to be doing Smash Tourney data. And this is going to store my entire CSV. So this is going to have everything in it. Next, I'm going to create a class so I can separate out different parts of this data. We're going to call this Tourney Results. Okay, in our Tourney Results, we'll create our constructor. So that's 2 underscore, and you can see 2 underscore init. 2 underscore, and we'll start with creating the reference name that we want for our class. I like to use self, And then we're going to create some variables here. Now, I'm going to on purpose name some of the variables different than the attributes. And I do that just so you can see what name we're going to use in the actual program. So if I look at my list, or if I look at my CSV file, we can see we have tournament. This is the name of the tournament or the event. Then we have location, date, entrance, participants, prize value, that's for the money, first, second, and third place. Okay, so we're going to set those up. So the first one is just going to be the name of the event. I'm going to shorten the location down to locale, just so it's a little shorter in here and everything fits on the screen. Date, entrance, prize, first, second, third, and fourth. Okay. Now, for the time being here, I'm just going to write the word pass in here for a second, just so I can explain something and I don't see red underlines. I hate seeing red underlines. So each of these has an index value associated with them. So we don't count the reference to the class, so it's self. That doesn't get counted. But here we have the first one is going to be 0. That's 1, 2. I like to do this just so people can see what these numbers represent. Okay, that's the first one. 6, 7, and 8. What do those represent? Well, if we go back here, this is row. So this is row, and our column is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, that's what those represent there. Okay, next we're going to set up our attribute, which our arguments here are going to assign to our attributes. So we're going to do self dot, and I'm going to give this a longer name. Actually, let's call this event. And we're going to set that equal to the name of the event up here. Now, I'm giving these different names. This is going to be the one we're able to access from the class. This is just temporary. It allows us to assign a value here. So self.event equals name, self.location equals locale. Okay, we're going to do something a bit different with date. So I want the date to come in, and you can see in the information the way the date is formatted. So here it says December, which is the first part of it. Then we have a number, but some of them are hyphenated. I'm going to make it simple on myself. I'm going to make it to where we only look at the month and the year and keep it easy. Okay, so if we come back here knowing that, I can say self dot, and I'm going to split up my date. So this is going to be date, and that's going to equal date dot split. Okay, so split is a basically a function that will allow us to separate this information up into a list. And I want to separate by spaces. So if we go back and look here, here's going to be the first thing. It sees the space, so it's going to separate that into the first part of our list. This will be the second part. There's another space. This will be the last part of our list. Okay, so we're splitting up the date coming in by this. Now, what does that allow me to do? Well, now I can say self.month, and that's going to equal our self.date. And if I use my brackets here, I can tell it that this is going to be the first thing from that list we just made. So again, if we look here, my first thing is going to be the month, so that's index 0 from the list. This would be index 1, and this is going to be index 2. Now, some of these might have spaces in them. How can I always get the last thing here? Well, that's easy. So let's say self.year equals self.date. And to get the last thing from a list in Python, we can just simply write -1, and that'll give us the last thing from the list. So that'll allow us to assign that to the year. I'm going to say self dot okay, so this is how many participants, how many people entered the event. I actually think I don't use this in the last part. I just don't like the word entrance. So I'm going to use that there. I do that so I can make sure my spelling's the same here. Okay, participants. Okay, now I want to have my prize money as an integer. So if I did self.prize equals, and if I convert the prize here, like this is fine, assuming that the string that we're reading in from this list is always a number. But what if they're, you know, weirdly organized numbers? Okay, and that might normally give us an error. Well, we can fix that. We can use something called a try except. So I can say try this, and the chance that there's an exception thrown, that's a value error, which is the type of error you would get if these don't match up. I can just basically copy this and just say it equals prize. And that'll just take it in as a string. We should be fine for how everything is organized in my CSV file, but we can always do things like this, try except, just in case we might get a value error from this conversion. Okay. And then we'll set our self.first to equal first. And I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate this line. Okay, you can also copy and paste. Okay, so this is going to be second and second and third and third. Whoa. Copy and paste went bad there. And fourth will be fourth. Okay. That's going to be all of my attributes that I have for this. And none of these other ones need to be converted in any funky way, so they're just coming straight in as we see them. Okay. I'm not going to need to go over to my CSV file and stuff over here, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this just so I can make the screen just a little bit bigger here. Okay. So the next part is I need to read the CSV file. So to do this, I typically just make a function called read underscore CSV. I'm not going to have it take in any arguments. This is just for organizational purposes only. Okay, so in the other video I explained how we do this. We say with open, which will open my file, and with open allows me to open the file and not manually have to open and close. So I like using with open. We're going to put in the name. I just said I wasn't going to put this back up. But we want the name of our CSV file. So if I just click here once, or if I right click on it, I say rename, I can just copy this, Control C. Let me get rid of this. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, so inside here we're going to put the file name. Now you can just manually type it in, but you want to make sure you type it in exactly as it is. Now, some things that you might get if you're saving this out from Excel. Well, let's first put in we're reading the file, so we're going to use that designation R. But let's say we get an issue where it says, let's say we formatted this in Excel using UTF-8 format. We might get an issue. So just to keep that issue from happening, we can just say our encoding for this file equals UTF-8. And that'll fix that from being an issue. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and close this again. Okay, we need to save this as a, we'll put an alias for this, which just allows us to assign a name to this opened file. I'm just going to call it my smash file. Okay, again, if you're dealing with NFL data or NBA data or MLB data, whatever, then name this accordingly. Okay, be silly to name your stuff exactly as I have it. we end this off with a colon. All right, this part should be indented. So here I'm going to say what my open file data is. So I'm just going to say reader underscore data. That's what I like to name mine. So this is the data that's being read in from the CSV module. So CSV dot reader. And what am I reading in? I'm reading in the smash file. And how am I separating all this information? Well, if we look, okay, it's separated by commas. That's what CSV stands for, comma separated values. So how do I want to separate? Okay, this is referred to as our delimiter. And that's just going to be separated by a comma. So whatever we are separating each of these rows by. Okay, now here you can see there's a comma, but since this is in quotes, it knows it's one thing. Same with the date here. Okay. Same with the value here. Okay, it's got a quotation around it. Okay, so that's going to be our delimiter. Okay, one thing we don't want is we don't want to include this top row. Okay, because that's going to be different data than what we need, and we don't need that in our list. So we're just going to use a function called next, which allows us to iterate to the next thing in our list, or what have you. So that's going to be my reader data. And I'm just going to tell it, hey, go to the next one. Skip over this first one, basically. Because I'm going to use a for loop, and this will allow me to skip that first part before the for loop. Okay, so here I'm going to say for row. Okay, so the row is going to represent each row here. And if I use a number, I can tell it this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, just like my numbers up here. Okay, so for each row in the reader data, okay, now this is kind of overkill, but I'm going to use a try and except here as well. Don't necessarily need to do that if everything up here was formatted correctly, but just in case, I want to show where we might use it again, because we could end up formatting everything here in this part. So I'm going to say try this. What do I want to try? Well, I want to create a temporary tourney results object. So I'm going to just call this temp tourney. And that's going to equal my tourney results. And then in my tourney results, I'm going to end up typing. Now you could type these all on one line. I'm going to do list format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter here. And I like things to be nice and lined up. So I'm going to tab this over. You don't have to. It's not really going to matter. I'm going to hit up one time. And I'm going to tab over here. Okay, so I'm going to write these on individual lines in like a list format. Again, you don't have to do this. You could type it all out. Mine's going to go off the screen, and I want you to be able to read my text, so I keep it nice and big. So hopefully this isn't too confusing. So row, the first thing that I want in, okay, and we can see here, it's kind of tiny, but it says tourney results name. Okay, and we know the name was index 0 based on what we did up here. So we're just going to go in order here. Okay, row 0, comma, enter, row 1, comma, enter, and I'm just going to copy this. Oh, that's weird. Let's see, is it giving me a nice, easy way? Oh, let's just go ahead and, okay. That'll be row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, row 8. Don't need the last comma. Okay, so make sure you counted these correctly. Up here you can see I went 0 to 8, so there should be 9 things. So it's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And again, the last one here gets no comma. Okay, I just want to show you real quick. If we wrote this out on one line, I'm just copying this for now, it would look like this. you can have spaces or not. The white space here is not going to matter. Okay, so I could have it this way. This is fine. You don't have to write it the way I wrote it in list form. But you can see this is going off the screen, and you guys won't be able to see this, so that's the whole reason I did it. Okay, so that's going to be my temporary tourney results. Okay, it's going to take all that information, store it as a temporary or a tourney result, and store it as this temporary tourney variable. I'm going to hit enter. The next thing I want to do is I want to append or add to my list. Okay, so I called my list Smash Tourney Data. Again, if you're working with NFL or Major League Baseball or whatever, your name would match accordingly. So I'm going to come up here, double click, copy, Control C. Okay. Okay, I want to make sure my cursor is lined up with where I was here. Okay, so that's my list, whatever the list is, dot append. Append, adding to list is append. Okay, what am I adding to my list? I'm going to double click my temporary tourney result, copy, paste. That's going to add it to my list. Okay. Okay. So this was my try. In case of an exception being thrown, okay, I'm going to unindent. So Shift Tab to unindent. Except in case of a value error. What do I want to do? Well, I'm print a message. Okay, my message will just say something like the following row has a value error. This is just kind of for me on the back end, so if my stuff comes in weird, I'm going to see this message, and then I'm going to print out the actual row that's having the issue. Okay, so that's being handled by this up here, for row and reader data. If I get a problem, I'll solve it. That's stupid. Okay, so row, it'll print that out for me. And that's just in case you tried to format these here. You could put in up here where I did prize. Okay, prize was number 4. So I could come here to number 4 and say, oh, put this in an integer function, which will convert it. So I could do this here as well. It'd be silly to do it here and here. Choose one or the other, whichever one you like better. Okay, so this is going to cover a value error that I would have here. We're not going to have one because we're just reading them all in as strings. So this one will take care of it. But in case you wanted to do it here rather than here, this will catch that information. Kind of overkill in my actual code. All right. From here, I'm going to create a couple of different functions. So I'm going to hit enter 2 times. I'm going to backspace. I think that was 4 times. Let's see. Let's do it again so everybody can see. Enter, enter. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I'm going to create some different functions, and those different functions are going to be used later. We'll fill them in with different information. I'm just going to kind of lay them out because I know what I want. Yours may differ slightly, but depending on what you're doing. Okay, so with this one, I'm going to say def, and we're going to say get list by data. So it depends on the data. Okay, and I'll add attributes here later. And inside of here, I'm just going to write pass. Okay, this will just allow me to create all my functions I know that I'm going to need because I've done this before, so I know what I currently need. Okay, so that's going to go there. Another one I'm going to write is display tourneys. Okay, this is going to display the final results. So if you want to call it display results, that's fine. Okay, and pass. Okay, that'll just let me keep going without having some issues here. Next, I'm going to have my, I like to use this start function when I do these tutorials just because it's easy to get into and use. So start or start program or begin program, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to go with a simple thing, start. Okay, start is not going to have any arguments. And this is where we're going to do our actual code. Now, for the time being, again, actually, let's have us, the first thing we're going to do is make sure we read that CSV file. So let's go ahead and just type in read underscore, and we can see it's in the list here, CSV. And then I'm going to hit enter 2 times, backspace 1 time. I'm going to make sure I call start. Okay, so you can see here we're on line 52. We're like halfway done already. Okay, so start is at the bottom. It means it's going to call this function here. Okay, so what are the things I want to do? So for my create task, I want to start off by introducing who's ever looking at my video or playing or looking at my code that works for College Board. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is make it super easy for them to see certain information. The easier you make their jobs, I'm sure the easier it is for them to grade. Okay, I'm going to give my program a name. I like to just put a couple of hyphens and give it a name. I'm going to call mine Smash Attorney Searcher. Not a great name. Hyphen, hyphen, hyphen. Okay, that's just going to show up at the beginning. Next, I'm going to explain what does my program do, just so it's easy for the user to see. Okay, what does my program do? You can create whatever you're going to say for yours. I'm going to say this program reads a Super Smash Bros. Hopefully my spelling here is good. Tournament? Is that how we spell it? I don't know about my spelling. That's okay. If you spell it right or wrong, the code's still going to run in this case. Okay, data set. And I'm going to create a second one here, just because I'm getting kind of long in my line of code. Okay, so this program reads a Super Smash Bros. Data set and allows the user to sort by inputting keywords to search. Okay, so that's going to be the general idea of what my program does. It's not really doing keywords. Okay, so I'm going to be putting in dates, but that's just what I'm putting for it. Okay, so this will show first, and then after that, I'm going to do a while loop. So I'm just going to make mine while true, and we'll put a break in here so this doesn't run forever. So what am I going to have mine do? The first thing I'm going to do is just ask the user to input a year. So I'm going to give a variable for that. Year equals just an empty set of quotes. Okay, why am I doing that? Because I want to make sure they put in the correct data. So for mine, I'm going to say while their year equals that empty string, I'm going to have them input information for that year. Okay, year equals input. Okay, what am I going to have them input? I'm going to say, please choose a year. And I'll give them a set here to look over. Okay, so I know in my data set that I've got 2019, 2020, and 2021. Now, you could have them search for any attribute that you want to have it sort by. Okay, if you want to go by location first. Chances are, though, location is going to be difficult to search for because if you look at the data, okay, London, England, okay, Daytona Beach, Florida, United States. That's a lot of stuff to type in. Okay, so I just picked easy to get information. Okay, month, day, year. Well, month and year. Okay, so they're going to type in the year. And then I'm going to say, oh, hey, if that year that they just typed in is not in the following list, okay, and that list being some dates, which I'll fill in here in a second. Okay, so if they're not, what they type in is not in 2019, 2020, 2021. Okay, I could have done this with if year does not equal 2019 and this year does not equal 2020. I could have done that and used like Boolean operators using AND, but we're just going to do it this way. It's easy. We're only searching for this information. Okay, if it's not in here, print a message. It's always good to put in like little error messages and stuff. Please only choose 2019, 2020, 2021. Okay, so if they typed in the wrong thing, let's reset the year to equal just an empty set of quotes again, which will make this while loop go again, and it'll keep doing this until we put in the right stuff. Once we know we have the right stuff, we can go ahead and back up before our while loop. Make sure you don't go back too far. You want to stop here. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's make a new list. Oops. So we'll call this the year list. Not a great name, but we'll go with it. And this is going to be our function, get list by, and I think we call it get list by data. I'm just going to copy and paste that here. You'll notice I do that a lot just to make sure things are typed in correctly. Okay, so in order to get this new list, that means that this function needs to return a list. Okay, I also need to provide some information for it. So get list by data. Well, what list do I currently want to search through? I want to search through my list at the top. Okay, so whatever that list is, that's my entire list. Okay, so I want to search by that. Okay, next, I'm going to say, hey, this person is trying to sort by a year. And more specifically, they want to sort by this variable that they typed in for the year. Okay, so this is going to be either 2019, 2020, or 2021. This is just going to be my search, my sort that I have. Okay, so I know here I want to put in 3 arguments. Okay, let's go back up into our function here and actually allow for those. So we saw the first one was the list that we wanted to sort. So making this super generic, I'm going to say list to sort. It's going to be my first argument. Next will be my sort type. And next, after that, will be the sort, let's say attribute. I'm just going to put a TTR. Okay, you could put mode or whatever you want to put, but I'm putting in these 3 arguments. Okay, so let's make sure they match. The list that I want to sort is my smash tourney data. My sort type is sorting by year rather than month or location or whatever else. And then my sort attribute is specifically looking at a specific year, being 2019, 2020, 2021. And I don't want to have to keep typing in all of those. So I can just use the actual information they're sorting by. Okay, let's go back up here to get list by data, our function. We're just going to get rid of pass here. Okay, so I know I'm going to have to return a list. Okay, so let's make a temporary list that we can just keep rewriting every time this function is used, because the AP Computer Science principles, part of the what they want you to do is they want you to be able to call a procedure, as they'll put. This is going to be our 3C procedure, by the way. They want you to be able to call a procedure that takes arguments and returns some sort of data. It must also have a for loop with if statements inside of it. Generally, that's the basic idea. So here's my new list. This is just temporary. And now I'm going to do a for loop. I'm going to say for, I'm just going to call it for each tournament. That's what I'm considering each part of our data up here, tournament results. Okay, so for each tourney in the list that I'm sorting, list to sort. And now we're going to check whether or not we're sorting by year or month. So that way we can use this same function multiple times, which is something else they want to see in the create task. So here I'm going to say if my sort type equals year, then inside of here I can say, okay, they are sorting by year. So if my tourney dot year, okay, so it's my year attribute from each of my tourneys. Okay, so they have this year attribute. So if that year equals whatever the sort attribute is, okay, that's the year they picked. So if it matches all of those things, we'll go to our temporary list, we'll append it, and we will add our whatever tourney we're currently looking at. We'll add that to our list. Let's go ahead and copy everything that's right here. Control C. I'm going to come right here, enter, backspace, backspace, L, paste. Okay, basically the same idea, but this is our month. Okay, and our tourney.month attribute is going to be here. Okay, that's really all we're doing differently. Finally, once we've sorted by what information or created our new list, we'll hit enter, backspace, backspace, backspace. So 3 times back, we're going to return this temporary list. Okay, so this temporary list that we've created, we've added our information by either year or month, and we've said, hey, if these match our search results, add them to the list, and then we're going to return that list once we've gone through all of our items in our list. So that information from here will get returned to here. Okay, that gives us one call to our function with different attributes. That's going to be important. College Board wants to see that we can call on our procedure and supply attributes to it. And better yet, we've returned some information from where it was called from. Okay. Now the fun part. The other thing we want to do is basically the same exact idea as all of this. Okay, so I'm going from year, while year, year equals input, if year not in, print, all of our stuff here. I'm going to copy this. Okay, I'm going to hit enter, paste. Okay, now I'm going to go through and start changing things. Okay, so this is going to be a month variable. And I'm going to say while month equals nothing. Ask the user to input a month. Okay, I'm going to just change this to please choose a month. And I'm going to take whatever they type and convert it so the first letter is uppercase. You can use dot capitalize or you could use dot title. I'm going to use dot title because it's shorter to type. Okay, and you'll see all of our months use this format. Title means uppercase first letter and lowercase everything else. Here's another example of dot title. Means that each first letter of each word is going to be uppercase. Everything else will be lowercase. Dot capitalize will only do the first letter, and then everything would be lowercase, which we don't want. Since we are dealing with months, we're doing title format. Okay, if our month is not in, and you can see this is probably going to get long. Okay, January, February, March, April, May, June. I like doing it this way. It's just faster for me. July, August, September, October, November, December. All right, we can start filling these in. Remember how to spell February. March, April, and you're going to see we are going to run off the screen. May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Let's have no typo, November, December. My original planning for this, I typed it wrong. All right, now you can see, oh, this looks like crap. Everything's off the screen. Luckily, we can just go to one of these and go, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm just going to come here and hit enter. You can keep it all in one line if you want to, if you're typing a lot smaller than me, but just so you can see how I have everything in here. Okay. All right, the next part is we're going to say, in case they type one that's not in this list, we'll say, let's do, maybe they spelled it wrong. Please check your spelling and choose valid months. That should be clear enough. All right, down here, month equals. Okay, so it's in case they type one that's not in the list, it'll reset that and the while loop will start over because it'll be set back to that. All right, this is going to be my month list. Okay, I can still call this function. Now I'm not going to take all of my data because I have a year list. So let's copy that. So this is my smaller set of data. How am I sorting? I'm sorting by month, which is why up here we put in month. And this is going to be the month variable. So this means I can call this function again, which College Board wants to see, a procedure that takes different arguments and runs this code and will give us a new list, temporary list, to return and store as month list. So this is a versatile procedure. It allows me to put in different information and use the exact same thing and give us a new list from it. All right. After this, after we have our smaller list, we want to display what tournaments match that. Now you can keep going and sorting by more and more information. This is actually enough to only give me a few different tournament results. So in my display tourneys, I want to be able to read in just whatever list I'm dealing with. So I'm just going to say final list, or you could call it list to print or whatever. But this is going to be whatever my final results are. So I'm just going to call the list final list. Okay, at the start of this, I want an empty space at the top. I want to check that the final list, okay, I'm going to copy that. I want to check if the length, so I can use the length function of my final list, is less than 1. I know there's nothing in that list, so I want to tell them, hey, there's nothing in this list. So I'm going to say no data matches your search. Please try again. Oh, emphasis there. Please try again. Okay. I like my blank prints. If you haven't seen in the other video, again, I could do print nothing, or I could come up here and \n. Both are going to print a new line. Visually, this is just easier for me to see while we're coding. Okay, so if the length of my list is less than 1, nothing's in my list. Enter and backspace. Else, that means there's something in the list. I'm going to say for each tournament, so for each tourney, in the final list, I want to print out information about that list. So I'm going to say print. We're going to use an F string so we can put a variable directly in this message. So I want to print out some labels here for each part of data. So first we'll say what is the event? Okay, we put our variables in between curly braces. So this is going to be my tourney dot, and if we go up, we'll see the tournament name is called event. That's the attribute. So down here, this will be, where did we go? Right here. Tourney event. Okay, if you called yours name, use name. Okay, so that is my tournament name. I'm going to duplicate. Okay, so Control D will duplicate, or you can copy and paste. This is going to be my location. Okay, and if you see the attributes, we named our location. Information, location. So it's always going to be what's on the left here, not these. Okay, so our location. Tourney.location. I'm going to print the date of this event. Okay, this is going to be tourney month. And let's go ahead and put the year next to it. So I'll have a space and another set of curly braces. And that's going to be tourney.year. Okay, some of them have prize money, some of them do not. So the ones that do not, I put 0 in for the data, and I don't want to print those if that's the case. So what I can do is just say if tourney.prize is greater than 0, we'll print it out. Okay, I'm just going to copy and paste this. Actually, let's do this one. Okay, make sure it's indented. This is going to be the prize. Let's put a dollar value right in front of it. And that's going to be tourney.prize. Okay, otherwise, else, in this case, I'm going to say, and I don't need a F string here. The prize amount for this event is either, let's say, for this event is unknown or not set. Okay, enter and backspace. The last thing we'll print out, I guess we could print participants out. So again, I don't like retyping things. Okay, paste. Okay, my participant count. We labeled that participants instead of entrants. Okay, that's how many participants we had. And then we want to show how people placed. So the way I'm going to do that is, of course, we'll just type it in. Okay, F string. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put first and somebody's name. And then I'll put a straight line and then second curly brace, straight line. And straight line is the same as the backslash key. Third, colon, curly braces, straight line. Oops, straight line. And fourth, colon, curly braces. Okay, so this is going to be tourney dot first. And you'll see this goes off screen as well. I'm not going to change this one, but okay, that's second. Third. And fourth. I believe that's how we named, well, tourney.fourth, sorry. I believe that's how we did it. Let's see. First, second, third, and fourth. Okay, and make sure our spelling's all good. First, second, third, and fourth. All right, and then at the very end, Scoot that back over so we can see. I'm just going to print a blank again, just so we have a space after each thing that's printed. And let's see, is there anything else for us to do? Yeah, we need to call this function. So display attorneys, I'll copy. I'm just going to come down here. I'll paste it after my month list, which ironically is what's going in my final list. Okay. And that put us at 95 lines. That is less than 100, which is what I said we would have. Oh, you know what? I did forget one thing. This program's going to run forever because we don't have any way to break out of the while true up here. Right here, while true. We don't want that. We don't want it to run forever. So I'm just going to make a simple command for the user to type in. So I'm just going to call this restart command, and that'll equal an input from the user. We'll just say, would you like to search again? Question mark, space, convert whatever they typed to lowercase, dot lower. And then we can just say if our restart command, no, it didn't pop up. Okay, if the restart command equals the letter N for now, you know what? Let's go with whatever the first letter is. So we can do, oh geez, we can go with just the first letter of whatever they typed. In case they type, we can give them a little more information here too. Y/N. There. Oops. Okay, so just type Y or N. Okay, if the restart command, this is just in case they type out yes or no, it'll just look at the first letter. If that first letter is an N, then they don't want to. So we can print, thank you for using the smash, or whatever you called yours, attorney searcher. So if they type no, we'll break out of this while loop. Else, I'm just going to print a blank. So that way when it starts again, there's just a blank before we start. And I think that's everything. Should be. So 101 lines of code. Obviously we could take some spaces out somewhere, I'm sure, and shorten it down, you know, putting these all out in one spot. So let's try this, and then I'll scroll down through so we can see everything. Okay. So Smash Tourney Searcher. This program reads a Super Smash Bros. Tournament data set and allows the user to sort by inputting keywords to search. I don't know if I like that word keywords, but please choose a year. 2018. Oh, please only choose 2019, 2020, 2021. 2055. Okay, good. So we made sure that's covering everything there. 2019, that's good. Choose a month, bacon. Please check your spelling or choose valid month. Oh, okay. Let's go with January. Okay, now, since I did title, it's automatically going to convert this. Oh, apparently in 2019, there were no matches in January. There were no tournaments in January, at least in the United States from the data set that I have. Would I like to search again? I sure would. Okay, let's go 2019. Let's check and see March. What do we have for March? Okay, no matches. I feel like that's wrong. There should be a match for March. So, let's see if we goofed. Okay. So I'm going to check through real quick to see if there's somewhere we're not getting information. Okay, so our month list. No, that's our year list. That's what we wanted. Okay, we're putting on our month, and we're putting in the month here. Okay, the month we type in is the title. Okay, if it's not in there, we print that out and we reset that. Okay. Display tourneys, we put in our month list. Okay, so if you get something like this where we're troubleshooting, let's put in a print here. Let's just check and make sure that there are things first entered in. So after we read the CSV, I'm just going to print, and I'm going to print the length of my entire thing. Okay, we probably just have one silly thing missing. Okay, so first I just want to make sure that in my startup here that I have information in my list, because maybe nothing's been added. So let's check that. So I got 32. So there are 32 things in my list, so we're good there. Okay, so that's good. Now we can always comment these things out. I'm just going to use it again, but I'm going to change out the information. Okay, so here with my year. Okay, before I get my information from my year list here. So before I get my month, I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to put the year list in there, because I should have information in the year list. So I can just troubleshoot these things as I go. It doesn't mean the program is, completely botched and broken. Okay, so there are 24 2019 dates. Now I could go to my list and see, but I know there's something here. Okay, maybe I did happen to choose two that were no good. Let's try May. Oh, okay. Maybe there was just none in March of 2019. I didn't happen to try one more thing. That would have been smart to do. Okay, so we have Get on My Level, Toronto, or Ontario, Canada, in May of 2019. So there must not have been anything for March. I just assumed, since I typed a couple, the prize amount for this event is unknown or not set. Participants, there were 847. First place goes to Tweak, then Mars, then ESAM, and MK Leo. Okay, Momon Khan, Atlanta, Georgia, $10,000 up for that one. 1,280 won by MK Leo. We have Tweak, Mars, and Samsora. Oh, we had another one even. Smash and Splash. Okay, in Wisconsin. Don't know about the money there. MK Leo won. Okay, so might have been good, but this is definitely a way that we can always check our information. So let's see and make sure we are good. So we know it works. I just had a slight moment where it's just like, oh, maybe this doesn't work. That'd be embarrassing. Okay, month list. Let's just make sure it matches before we display our results. I just got unlucky and thought I had two things that weren't working. Okay, 2019, choose a month. Let's go with March again. Okay, so we got 0, so there was no data there. Okay, I thought maybe I just typed something in wrong. Okay, we'll search again. We'll do 2019. Let's put May in again. And we should get that there were 3. Yep, and we get 3. Again, just a simple way to problem solve and check for certain information being there. Okay, I'm just gonna clean that back up. All right, now before I scroll down through and show the very last part of my code, I want to do one more thing. I want to talk about what the different parts of the CSV file, or of the create task, AP create task written responses, are going to cover. So we're using a list. We need to talk about how information is added to our list. So that's going to be my read CSV file, and it's going to talk about the code that takes all the information from the CSV file and add it to my list using the append function. Okay. Next, we have our 3C response, which is going to be broken up into 2 parts. So first we have our get list by data. This is our procedure. Okay, so this would be our 3C, part 1. Okay, this is our procedure that takes 3 arguments, 3 positional arguments, list to sort, sort type, and sort attribute. It creates a new list for each tournament in our list that we're sorting. If the information we're sorting is by year, if the year matches our results from our tournaments. If their year matches our sort attribute, we're going to add them to this new list, and then we'll return this temp list once it is completed. Okay, that's part one. Next, we're going to look for where do we call these functions, because you need to show 2 calls to this function, so 2 examples. Okay. Now, if we come down here, we can see down here that we call it once here. Okay, so that's 3C part 2. This also happens to be part that's going to be used for 3D because we're going to show our first call to our function, and then another one. Okay, here's the other one. Okay, this is going to be 3D, our second call example. Okay, and in our second call, it's going to ask what is being checked here. So those are the conditions being checked: our year list, our month list, the month value that we're using, our attribute, and then the display results function is going to print the results of that, and you have to explain what that is as well. And then finally, you have your 3B. Your 3B is actually going to be your display tournament results. So here's where you show where you can go through a list and pick out different attributes from each element of the list. Okay, so you can show the different attributes. So this is going to be your 3B section. 3B is in 2 parts. One is showing the actual list, and then this is where you basically print out different parts or access different parts from the list. So the other part would be what is your actual list? This is our actual list. This is how things are added to that list, which I think that is also part of 3B. So this is adding items to the list. And I'm sorry if it's not 3B, but it's where we add items to the list. And then down here is where we get attributes from the list. Okay, and that's what they want to see for the entire create task. So you can do this in, around 100 lines of code. But I want to thank everybody for watching. I'm going to pan down through while I say all my goodies. But yeah, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give me a like. Leave me a nice comment, preferably. Don't tell me my coding is low skill or anything like that. I kind of code this in a way that may not be optimal for certain things, but it fits with what College Board is looking for, and that's important for what this assignment is. So that is why certain things are done the way they are. But anyways, we get to the end here. Again, I'm just going to say thanks for watching.